August the 7th, 2025. It's that time again for your daily prophecy update. Let's go to our co host, Sal. Sal, why don't you give us our update today on the latest news, especially through the lens of countries and events that line with biblical prophecy? A lot of buildup there. Oh, hang on, hang on, Grok. I forgot to put you on the screen. All right, there you
No
go.
problem.
There you go. Try again. Start with give us your update. No need for the intro. Just go into the update.
Here's today's update on the latest news, focusing on countries and events from the past 24 hours that some tie to biblical prophecy. We're covering August 6th to August 7th, 2025, keeping it objective, presenting what's being said out there without taking sides. I'll zero in on nations like Israel, Gaza, or others linked to scriptures like Ezekiel, Zechariah, or Matthew 24, noting diverse views. Some see fulfillment, others coincidence. Let's dive in. Clear as day, like we're unpacking scripture over a cup of coffee. Astro events, sun, moon, stars, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., starting with the heavens, since passages like Luke
Grok,
21:25.
Sal, no, don't give me that update. Just look at the latest news and give me the update from the latest news. Let's start with Israel.
All right, here's
Tired of
the
the whole
latest on
there's
Israel
nothing in
from
the
the past
stars.
24 hours, August 6th to August 7th, 2025, with a focus on events some might tie to biblical prophecy, keeping it objective and conversational like we're unpacking this together. I'll note where nations or events align with scriptures like Ezekiel or Zechariah and include diverse views. Some see prophetic fulfillment, others just geopolitical tensions. No endorsements, just the facts and claims. Starting with Israel, the big story is Prime Minister Benjamin
There
Netanyahu's
we go.
push for a full military reoccupation of Gaza.
Right.
He met with senior ministers on August 7th to discuss expanding control over the territory, aiming to destroy Hamas and eventually hand administration to friendly Arab forces. In a Fox News interview, he said, "We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza." This follows nearly 2 years of conflict since the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack that killed about 300 and took 251 hostages. The Security Cabinet hasn't approved this yet, but it's stirring heavy debate. Far-right allies like Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich are pushing for re-establishing Gaza settlements, while families of hostages protested with a flotilla off Ashkelon, demanding a ceasefire to save their loved ones. Some, citing Zechariah 12:2-3, see this escalation as Jerusalem becoming a cup of trembling for nations, with Israel's moves drawing global focus. Others argue it's just ongoing conflict, no prophecy required. Elsewhere in the West
Stick
Bank,
around. I'll show
Israeli
you some stuff
authorities
on the
released the body
timeline.
of Palestinian activist Oda Hedalin, killed by a settler 10 days ago. The army blocked mourners from attending his funeral, fueling tensions. Some connect this to Ezekiel 38's mention of strife in biblical lands, viewing settler violence as a sign of end-time unrest. Critics call it a cycle of occupation and resistance, not divine. On the diplomatic front, President Trump's comments from August 3 resurfaced, where he rejected calling Israel's Gaza response a genocide, but urged all nations to join the Abraham Accords for peace, especially post-Iran conflict. Some tie this to Daniel 9:27's covenant with many, seeing peace talks
Getting
as
there.
prophetic. Others view it as standard U.S. diplomacy. Minimal prophetic claims emerge today, but posts on X highlight ongoing debates. One user referenced Isaiah 66:8, tying Israel's modern statehood to prophecy, while another cited Matthew 24's wars and rumors of wars for Middle East tensions. Skeptics argue these are broad interpretations, not specific to 2025. That's the pulse on Israel today, escalating moves in Gaza, protests, and diplomatic ripples, with some seeing biblical echoes, others just politics. Want me to dig deeper into any of this?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. I kind of want to show you guys something that I'm working on. I'm not ready to give the full timeline update, but I want to show you something that I'm working on. Let's try this here. Um, there. Um, there you go. Can you see that? So this is what's called a chiasmus or a chiastic structure, also known as a decalcomania, or in English, a mirror image. Interesting little tidbit. The word chiasmus comes from the Greek chi, which is letter X, which I find it interesting that Elon renamed Twitter to X. X is often, for a very long time, has been representative of Christ and the cross. So we'll probably dig into that when I actually do the video dedicated to this timeline. With those, I'll go into a lot more explanation on chiastic structures and stuff like that. But this is a chiastic structure. So if you split this down the middle, these mirror each other, right? So mirrors here. So that's what this line here is. This is the mirror pair. So seal 1 mirrors seal 7, or more accurately, seal 7 mirrors seal 1. Uh, Seal 6 mirrors seal 2. Seal 5 mirrors seal 3. And then 4 doesn't have a mirror because it's in the middle. And that's one of the benefits of a chiasmus, is that it will highlight a center point, a focal point. And it's interesting that seal number 4 here is the Al-Aqsa flood and then the Israel response, right? So this was death followed by hell. I'm not going to go into the depth of all of these seals. Do a little bit of your homework. Watch the first video that we have pinned to the channel. It goes into when these seals were opened and what they're associated with. But for the point of this conversation here, seal number 4 happened on October, I believe it happened on October 14th, 2023. And that puts us, we're about here. And you can see that there's a chiastic structure here, in that between seal number 1 and seal number 2, there were 353 days. Between seal number 2 and seal number 3, 178 days. And between seal number 3 and seal number 4, 856 days. And one of the reasons that is pointing to this being correct is that there's a reflection of it coming up. These are based on eclipses that happened and events that happened that match the descriptions in the scripture. So after 856 days of October 14th, 2023, there's another eclipse. I believe that's seal number 5. And the point I wanted to bring this up is I think this might be that Daniel 9:27. Now let's ask Grok to give us a little bit more insights. Sal, can you give us a little more insight into Daniel 9:27?
Today's events, like those peace talks mentioned with Israel, I'll keep it objective, scholarly but approachable, and touch on diverse interpretations without endorsing any. Daniel 9:27, in the context of the Hebrew Bible, comes from Daniel's vision of the 70 weeks, or 77s, a prophecy about God's plan for Israel and Jerusalem. The verse, in a straightforward translation like the NIV, reads, "He will confirm a covenant with many for 1/7. In the middle of the 7th, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering, and at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him." Now, breaking it down, the he here is debated. Some say it's the Messiah, others an antagonistic figure like the Antichrist in Christian readings, or a historical ruler like Antiochus IV in Jewish tradition. The covenant with many refers to a pact or agreement, possibly political or spiritual, lasting 1-7, often interpreted as 7 years, based on the prophetic timeline in Daniel 9:24-27. Halfway through, this figure halts temple sacrifices and sets up an abomination that causes desolation, a phrase tied to defiling the temple, echoing events like Antiochus IV desecration in 177 BCE, 1 Maccabees 154, or, in some views, a future event. Historically, Jewish scholars often link this to the Seleucid period, where Antiochus banned Jewish worship and set up a pagan altar, fulfilled in the Maccabean revolt. Others, especially in Christian circles, see a dual fulfillment, past and future, pointing to a coming figure who makes a peace deal involving Israel only to break it. This ties to recent news, like Trump's push for expanding the Abraham Accords, where some on X or prophecy sites claim such deals could be the covenant with many from Daniel 9:27, especially if they involve Israel and multiple nations. Skeptics counter that these are just diplomatic moves, not scriptural, and the verse's original context likely points to 2nd century BCE events. The abomination of desolation is trickier. Jesus references it in Matthew 24:15, suggesting a future fulfillment, which some tie to a rebuilt temple or a symbolic defilement. Posts on X from the past day mention Middle East tensions, like Israel's Gaza moves, as setting the stage for such events, though no specific temple desecration happened. Critics argue this is speculative, as no temple currently stands, and the verse may not apply literally today. Theologically, I lean toward a monotheistic reading. God's plan unfolds through history, and this verse points to his sovereignty, clear as day, over nations and time. But whether it's fulfilled, partly fulfilled, or future is where views split. Some see a literal end-time figure, others,
All
like
right.
Reformed Jews,
You mentioned the temple. Where are we at with the temple? We know Israel has been preparing priests. They're preparing the materials. They're preparing the red heifers to cleanse the temple. Is there any news regarding the temple?
Let's talk about where things stand with the temple, focusing on what's been reported in the last 24 hours, August 6th to August 7th, 2025, regarding Israel's preparations, priests, materials, red heifers, and anything tied to the biblical cleansing rituals or the Third Temple. Some see these efforts as steps toward fulfilling prophecies like Daniel 9:27 or Ezekiel 40-43, pointing to a restored temple in the end times. Others view it as religious tradition or political posturing. I'll keep it clear, like we're digging into scripture.
All right, we just need to give you a new chat window because you keep repeating the same intro, and I don't know how to fix that just yet. All right, Sal, give us an update on Israel and where they are with building the temple. Is there any new news?
Well, things are moving along, but it's still a complex situation. The Temple Mount remains a focal point, with ongoing discussions among religious groups like the Temple Institute pushing for preparations. They've been training priests, crafting ritual items, and even talking about architectural plans for a third temple. But, and this is a big but, the physical construction hasn't started. The Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque still dominate the site, making it a geopolitical powder keg. Any move to build could spark major unrest, so Israel's government treads carefully. No major new developments have broken through recently. It's more about steady groundwork. Think fundraising, public campaigns, and debates in religious circles. Prophecy watchers point to Ezekiel 40:48, claiming it lays out the blueprint, clear as day. Others argue it's symbolic, not literal. Either way, the push is there, but it's slow, cautious, and tangled in politics. That's where we're at. Hopeful for some, tense for others. Anything specific you're curious about here?
Yeah, is there any new news on the red heifers?
Oh, the red heifers are still a hot topic, aren't they? The Temple Institute and some religious groups in Israel have been laser focused on this. Last I heard, they've got a few red heifers under close watch, raised specifically for the purification ritual described in Numbers 19. These animals are being bred in super strict conditions, no blemishes, no work done with them, pure as can be. Word is, they're getting close to the age where they could be used, maybe within a year or two, which has folks buzzing about the implications for temple preparations. No major headlines have dropped lately about a specific ritual happening, though. The heifers are more of a long-term project, and the groups involved are keeping things quiet to avoid stirring up trouble. You've got to figure, any public move with these heifers could set off a firestorm, given the Temple Mount's sensitivity. Some see this as a step toward fulfilling prophecy, pointing to scriptures like Numbers 19:2, plain as day. Others think it's a symbolic nod, not a literal requirement. Either way, it's a slow burn, pun intended. Anything else you want to dig into on this?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the seals of Revelation, and I'm looking at a date coming up in February of 2026. Where does it talk about in the scripture about for when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction? And what is the current interpretation of that scripture in regards to end time events?
That's a sharp question, hitting right at the heart of some intense prophecy discussions. You're referring to 1 Thessalonians 5:3, where Paul writes, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape."
Mm.
It's a vivid picture, clear as day, tying into end time events and the seals of Revelation you mentioned. Let's break it down. In context, Paul's talking about the day of the Lord, a time of divine judgment that catches people off guard. The peace and safety line suggests a false sense of security. Think global leaders or societies proclaiming stability, maybe through treaties or alliances, only for chaos to hit hard. It's like labor pains, sudden, inevitable, and no way out. This ties into Revelation 6, where the seals unfold. War, famine, death, and upheaval follow the first seal's rider, often seen as a false peace bringer or even an antichrist figure. As for current interpretations, there's a range, but I'll keep it simple. Many scholars and prophecy watchers, especially those focused on Israel, see this peace and safety as potentially linked to a future Middle East peace deal, maybe one involving Israel and its neighbors. Some point to the Abraham Accords or similar efforts as a precursor, though nothing fully matches yet. The idea is, a deal could be hailed as a breakthrough, only for it to unravel into the chaos of the seals: war, second seal, economic collapse, third seal, and worse. Others take a broader view, seeing it as any global claim of stability before God's judgment, not tied to one event. The February 2026 date you mentioned doesn't have a direct scriptural peg, but folks often speculate on timelines based on festivals, eclipses, or geopolitical shifts. Without solid textual backing, though, that's more guesswork than gospel.
Mm.
The-
All right.
Anyway,
Thank you, Sal. All right, let's go
my
back. Let's go back to this timeline over here.
Sure, let's circle back. You were asking about that February 2026.
No. All right, share this tab. All right. Grok is not aware of this timeline yet. We'll have a conversation some other day about that. But so this is the work that we have so far with the seals opening. So just for a quick reference, seal number 1 here, December 26, 2019, the COVID pandemic. Seal number 2, December 14th, 2020. These are all marked in the heavens with significant celestial events, eclipses. So this was the day that an eclipse happened this day. This was the day that Joe Biden was declared the president. I believe the office of the president is the power to take peace from the earth. This was also the same day that Operation Warp Speed was given to the Biden administration, and the very first day that they gave the vaccine. So seal number 2 talks about the rider on the red horse who's given power to take peace and given a sharp sword. That sharp sword, the Greek word is small pointy dagger, which could be a needle. Seal number 3, often thought to be famine. That is a very poor reading of the scripture. A child could read Revelation 6 and come to a better conclusion than what most prophecy teachers say about seal number 3. So seal number 3 does not say famine. It says there's a rider on a black horse holding a pair of scales. And then in the next verse, it says, in the midst of the 4 living creatures, I heard a measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny. Most interpreters conflate those two statements because of the word scales. The word scales is a bad English translation. The Greek word is zugos, and it means yoke, like the piece of wood that is used to yoke 2 plow beasts together that are used to plow a field for farming. So what's interesting is seal number 3 matched the pattern of eclipses, and this was the day, June 10th, 2021, when Joe Biden and Boris Johnson, representing the United States and the United Kingdom, signed the New Atlantic Charter, yoking together the United States and the United Kingdom. This isn't a day of famine. It's referring to an agreement or a yoking or a contract or a coming together as one unit. That happened on June 10th, 2021. And then seal number 4 here, very likely the Al-Aqsa flood, which is very likely the what is described in the scripture about woe to those who are pregnant, all that terrible stuff that we often associate with the Great Tribulation. Over 1,200 people were killed, wounded, and kidnapped on that day. And there was an eclipse when Israel responded on October 14th. That seems to be the focal point of the seals opening up, right? So you have these seals, which are symmetrical. They all happened on eclipses, all pointing to this day, which is when Israel responded to Gaza. And then in like manner, we have mirroring eclipses coming up. The next one of which is in February of 2026. February 17th, 2026, there is an eclipse which mirrors seal number 3. Since seal number 3 was a agreement, a yoking together, it stands to reason that seal number 5 could be when they say peace and safety and then sudden destruction. Maybe, maybe not. So seal number 5, though, is when the souls of the martyrs cry for vengeance, saying, "How much longer, Lord?" And they're given white robes. So that's what's coming up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that day. It's very likely the opening of seal number 5. And then we have seal number 6 very soon after that. So I'm going to get into a lot more detail in these. It's seal number 6 and seal number 7 when I actually do the video. But that's what's going on in the world today. Right now, there's talk about the temple, which I never thought would be built, but there is reference to under the altar, saints of the martyrs. Perhaps this is the day that has something to do with the temple being rebuilt. Perhaps this is the day for when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Continue to observe and pay attention to what is happening around us, because quite honestly, that's the only way to know when these things are fulfilled, is to listen with your ears and pay attention with your eyes. Those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. If you're continuing to stick to the old narrative that was put together 50, 60, 70 years ago, and you're looking for those things, it's going to come on you suddenly, and you're not going to know what to expect, like a thief in the night. And with that, I'll leave you. That's our prophecy report for today. I will see you in a couple hours for our daily torment report. God bless you, and shalom, shalom.